Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Marvel Legends The Infinity Gauntlet Thanos, which is basically just a Deluxe Thanos release, which is probably the best Thanos release to date. But that doesn't mean you should just necessarily run out and go buy it. Run out and buy it. Whatever I should have said there. I might have worded it wrong. I've been drinking way too much caffeine. But this is a pretty solid release with a lot of stuff to like. Obviously, there's some stuff to talk about. They did some new things here, and I think some of them are pretty darn good. There's a couple things I don't know if I like or not. We're going to kind of figure that out as we go, but there's definitely some stuff to talk about despite the overall goodness of this release. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about, let's say, 7 3/4 inches tall, which makes him just about 19.5 centimeters, pretty close to that. Pretty good size figure. It's nothing out of the ordinary. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, this is the best traditional looking Thanos release. I know they're not the exact same version every of the comic-based Thanoses that are out there. This is the best release so far. Objectively, if you like a different version because of the style of the suit with the more modern armor look, then go for that. But this is a classic Thanos, more or less, and it's a very, very good release. All right, so first question of the day, question of the day is what I meant to say. Do you guys love, hate, or are indifferent to the marble plastic that Hasbro tends to use for metallic parts? I am somewhere between indifferent and hate. Now, here's why. I'll go into it a little bit as we talk about the aesthetic of this figure. Thanos here is a good example of when they can do the marbled plastic really well. If they do it right, like you can see here, he's very shiny and looks really good where they use the marbled plastic properly, like the boots, the gloves, the chest piece. It's great. However, it's still marbled plastic. Like you can see on his foot right here, I have a big line just from the swirling in the plastic, which is not great. So I still have a little bit of an issue with that, and it's still somewhat transparent. I have an issue with that, but in this case, it does look really nice. Would it look better painted? I think so. However, on this figure, even though normally they do a really good job with metallic paints, the gold paint that they did isn't that great. It actually doesn't look as good as the marbled plastic, so it's kind of a case-by-case scenario for me, but as a rule, I prefer paint over plastic. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic on this guy. First things I noticed, like I said, the marbled plastic looks really, really good. It's very nicely done. Very shiny, really pops, looks great. Other than the marbling, which even then I could kind of allow, especially on a character like Thanos. It's not like his armor is made out of traditional materials, earthly materials. So the marbling works for him. It looks really good. And here's the other thing. They did a ton of shading on this guy. Almost all of the blue has shading on it, at least somewhere. And here's the other thing that's a fantastic thing. The shading is purposeful for the most part. It's located where it's supposed to be. It's on the bicep. It's on the forearm, in the elbow. That's a little weird. It's on the shoulder. It's on the top of the pec. It's on the quads, even though I would have preferred to have some blue in between there, some dark blue. It's purposeful shading. Did they do the back? Only on the arms, on the triceps. Didn't do any here, didn't do any here. I think I can forgive that. I do wish they had just placed a little bit more emphasis on purposeful shading, just to be a stickler, but as a rule, this is how you're going to do it on a cheaper figure, so I think they nailed it. It is strange to me that it's tampography. If you look really close, it's a dot matrix rather than just the airbrush style shading, which is very strange, but also it works, so no issues there. The paint job on this guy is pretty clean. The line work is good. Like I said, the gold could be better. It's not as opaque as I'd like, but it's still solid. But the head, on the other hand, is a really solid paint job. Is it absolutely perfect? No, it's not going to be from Hasbro, but it's pretty good. They have the shading around the eyes. The eyes are painted pretty well. The mouth is painted well. There's some shading going on in other places. The gold line work against the blue, it's all very clean. This guy is a very aesthetically pleasing figure just because of the shading that they did. I mean, otherwise it's still mostly just molded plastic, but you throw a little bit of shading on there and it makes it look like a collectible. So I'm very pleased with this. I think the molded plastic is good. It's nice and matte for the blue, shiny for the gold, extra paint. I'm happy, 9 out of 10. It's really well put together for a Hasbro release. Very, very nice. Okay, so as far as accessories go, we have the normal head that you already saw. Then we do also have the bearded head with the crown. Equally awesome paint job. The beard looks great. My beard doesn't look as good as it could be at the bottom part. The shading's a little weird, but otherwise, excellent head sculpt, excellent paint. That's great. Then we also have some alternate gauntlet hands. You saw the 2 normal fist hands on him in the package. Then we also get a snapping, pointing, it's just a snapping finger hand, but you could use it as a pointing finger hand if you wanted to with the right angle. And then you also get the clenchy hand. And so that's pretty cool. That's more than enough, I think, for Thanos. The only thing we're missing is a throne, which would have been really nice. Just, you know, charge an extra $10 and put in a cheap-ass plastic ABS throne, and it would have worked. But either way, this is good. 8 out of 10. That's perfectly fine. Would have been fine to have a throne too, though. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. The head is on a double ball peg, which is pretty good, except you can see they had an opportunity to use a big old ball in there and in that big old neck, but they didn't. They used a tiny little ball with a tiny little hole, and you want big balls and big holes as a rule. So it doesn't have that much range. Like, it can't go forward. So you'll see once we put the head on, he can't look down, and he's a big guy. He's big, and he actually cannot look down. He can look up pretty well, which is good. And the double ball peg does afford more style posing, leaning side to side, turning and leaning at the same time. It's useful, but he can't look down. And the side to side is limited as well due to the way that they did their ball pegs, which is unfortunate. For the shoulder, it's your standard ball hinge. You can get them better than horizontal though, so that's good. You do get your rotation. This is soft-ish, but it's not that soft, so you can flex it some, but you're not going to be going all the way around without really putting some stress on this. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow, single jointed elbow if I know how to count. Single jointed elbow less than 90, still pretty lame. Don't like that. Wrists have a swivel, obviously they're interchangeable, or at least this height, and a hinge. So that's pretty good. It's standard. Ab crunch goes back and it's painted all the way through. That's cool. Goes forward 1 notch, could be better, but again, it'll do. Waist twist is a waist twist. Belt is soft and floaty, so that's fine. Hips go pretty far forward for a big guy like this, and the skirt doesn't really get in the way. I'm guessing that's why they didn't do the throne. He really can't get into a seated pose. You would have to cut this off or modify it. So I think what they need to do for a future release, Hasbro, if you're listening, here's the way to make some more money on another Thanos. Just give us interchangeable skirt piece and give us a throne, cheap throne. Easy money for you guys. Legs do go pretty far out to the side, about 45. Thigh swivel is a thigh swivel, double jointed knee on the pinless legs. It works. For a big guy, it works as well as it can work, so that's good. Ankles go far enough forward. That's better than most figures, honestly, and all the way back, and you get a pretty decent ankle rocker. So yeah, this guy for a chunky guy is fine. There's a couple limitations I don't like, particularly the neck not looking down and the biceps not bending, but he's still solid enough, and it's Thanos, so it's not like he's running around doing kung fu and stuff. I think it's fine. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 for what it is. And now it's time for the final verdict. I actually really enjoy this figure personally. Yes, it has some flaws objectively, and it's still good objectively. So I'm gonna give it an overall rating of 8 out of 10. I think Hasbro did a good job with this. There is room for improvement, of course, whether it's accessories or articulation or even just a little extra paint or purposeful paint. Either way, still an 8 out of 10. It's a strong release. I think you guys will enjoy it. I definitely suggest you pick one up and add it to your collection. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you thought about the figure. Let me know what you thought about the review. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.